stimulus, like you're just not interested, or because it's too much. So like you're playing a game and you keep losing, you're bored. Mm-hmm. That's not understimulated.
Yeah, it's the same amount of stimulation.
Right. The last paper was saying it's because you can't go toward the task positive network.
Okay.
That's what that feeling is when you don't like. It goes, but you don't like.
You just can't.
The wheel is spinning because you didn't put in gear.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you ride your bike. You ever do that? You put your bike into gear too early, and you're like,
fuck! So that's right. So that's what it seems boredom is actually.
Yeah. Well, guys, welcome back. We want to talk to you about specifically today. We're going to go into the finest StrongFit equipment stuff we've ever purchased.
You know what? My only saving grace on that one is I was not the one who put it on the StrongFit community.
Thank God. Could you imagine if you put it on there and everybody bought it? So there's these things that I've seen. I've actually seen the ads for them a lot.
Yeah.
What I have never actually seen is one in person, now that you mention it. But I've seen the ads. It looks like,
it's a peg stick.
It's like a peg stick, but it's built more like a giant set of bolt cutters.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And it looks industrial.
And then there's a thing in it that you crank.
And it looks like, that would be kind of useful.
Because you could go from like 20 to 300 pounds or whatever it was.
So someone posted a link to it in the community.
And I bought it, obviously.
Julien bought it, and so did a handful of people.
Yeah. 20, I should have known that $20 was a bit cheap.
But this is what came in. And if you're listening, what this is like a grip thing that you would see in an office, like a little stress squeezer. Same mechanism as a pec stick, kind of.
I can almost do it with my pinky.
But this
to tell you how strong it is. There you go.
It is seriously, it's child size. It's not even any.
It's baby size.
Like this, it will sit almost entirely inside the palm of my hand.
Yeah.
So stay away from that.
Yes. So lesson learned. If it sounds weird out of
it's too
China
good to be true,
or whatever, of Asia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also check your credit card statements.
After that. Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, today we are going to go into some Q&A stuff. We have kind of a whole pile of questions that we kind of sift through to try to make the Q&A at least
between YouTube, Instagram.
But today there was a few that were that we found that were kind of popping up that were like fundamental, like basics questions that maybe people have missed, or we need to make sure we're just repeating often enough. Points that need clarified.
Yeah. So Q&A for the non.
If you haven't been in for 80 plus episodes in a row.
Or if you're not, like super into StrongFit, that's what those, I'm sorry to say, but that's quite a little bit what those questions is. People are like, it's fascinating.
They're just knocking at the door and don't understand the rest of it.
Right, either they're new or they don't care that much.
Yeah.
Which I found that a sin, just to think about the fact that you could not be 100% in, but whatever.
So one of the things, though, that we always are getting questions about is nutrition.
Often.
For many, many, many reasons and many different things. But we always go back to the eggs thing. Are they protein? Well, we don't. That's the thing. I don't know. You've said since the very beginning, I don't think there was any.
I don't think I've ever said anything but eggs are protein. Like, when did eggs become fat and not protein? Bodybuilders have been talking about eggs as protein forever.
Yeah.
When did that start? Yeah. When are eggs fat? When did that start? Like a few years ago? Because I missed that train.
Well, people go to like percentages and ratios.
Okay, so when you make an omelette, you're having fat.
Yeah.
When did that start? I've never... Okay, anyway. But but let's talk about this.
So, but that comes down to... And I see it often this is I think the problem with macro counting in general is that it requires things to be mostly binary. And if they're not, it's like, I'll just count the major macronutrient that gets counted as that. So that's why a person who hasn't looked at it or thought about it much will always just say, well, eggs are fat, eggs are fat.
Because they look at it and it's that percentage of protein versus that percentage of fat. And therefore, because the percentage of fat is high, it counts as fat.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, as you say, with macro counting, because now you're dividing stuff based on the percentages, which is...
Here's the way I look at it, is there's going to be a certain digestive load to protein, no matter what. Yeah. So having that amount of protein surrounded with more fat doesn't necessarily think that it's going to make that protein easier to digest. You know what I'm saying? If I have a steak and I put more butter on it, that doesn't make it less protein.
So first of all, eggs are protein, not fat. Why do they count as protein in the StrongFit protocol? Let's start this way. They do because the StrongFit protocol is not based on percentages and macros and stuff like that. It's based on the reaction of your body to what you're eating. Food ingested versus food digested. I don't care what the percentages are on a piece of paper and stuff like that, or fat versus protein. If there is enough protein in whatever you're eating to trigger a parasympathetic response, it's a protein, because it's a protein on how your body is gonna react to it. Yeah. The point is circadian rhythms. So shall we explain the protocol again, what the point is? Because this is going to be for if some people are new to it. So understand, because we had another question about the protocol I want to get to as well. What is the point of the protocol? The point of the protocol is not to get lean, like that guy, and we're going to come back to what that guy says so I can explain, is not to get lean, is not to decompose macros in protein versus, is none of that. Is to respect the circadian rhythms so that you can have the best sleep possible. That was really the first point of the protocol. After that, it's through respecting the circadian rhythms, it's the capacity to have clear signals. Why? Because clear signals have to do with somatic errors and all that stuff. Yeah. Right. So that's the point, is clear signals, better sleep. So circadian rhythms, that's the main thing. Yeah. Circadian rhythms roughly means sympathetic during the day, parasympathetic at night, right? All cells have circadian rhythms. We're all on a clock, which is usually decided by light, but for humans, it's light, food, or social interaction. Yeah. That means during the day, you're more towards sympathetic. At night, you're more toward parasympathetic. That means that I don't want to trigger a parasympathetic response through food during the day. Yeah. Because otherwise your body thinks it's nighttime.
And there's a total misalignment then that can come from the rest of your day.
Exactly, because then the light is saying something, but the food is saying something else. That creates a space where your body doesn't know how to react. It's like, it's light, so am I supposed to go out and kick ass? Or am I supposed to rest and not do anything? And that's the problem between the two. So we want anything that triggers a high parasympathetic response at night, and during the day, we're going to want more toward a sympathetic response. So that means that anything that triggers the parasympathetic response should be counted as protein for dinner. Now, cheese has protein in it, yes, but unless you consume really high amount of cheese, you're not going to trigger a parasympathetic response. At some point, if you consume too much food, you will trigger a parasympathetic response. Like that's no matter what. Yeah. Right. So that means that having too much food in one sitting during the day is never a good idea. Hence why fasting works so well. Right. You're not supposed to, and feeding windows and everything, but you're not supposed to have too much food during the day. You can have never too much food, but you can have a lot of food at night because it puts you in the right state. When you understand that the system is based on digestion with food, obviously, not based on absorption, digestion. That means anytime you put a load too large on the digestive system, it needs to be toward the parasympathetic side, because anything toward the sympathetic will not let the digestion function properly. That's known for like 150 years. Anything in the sympathetic, you don't digest as well. So if you put a lot of food in, the system understands that it needs a full digestion to be able to deal with all that stuff. Naturally, you'll go toward parasympathetic. Yeah. If you don't, then you'll stay here, not being digested, and that's why you have stomach ache, and then you have the large steak for lunch, and it gets stuck here. And bad things happen when
those energy fluctuations during the day are from when I was working out, out all day, is that gets hard because you eat a lunch, or in my case, you would eat three lunches that day, and you're just spent all day kind of drugged down, and that feeling is now is what digesting food is, protein specifically, right? It would just downregulate me completely. So I spent all day trying to fight my energy back up from that hole. And the problem is, the reason I'm tired then is because I need it. You need to be, because if you were to work at your full capacity, you'd be more towards sympathetic. You would not be able to digest the food you ingested. Yeah. And the body hates undigested food. It's extremely nocif. You say nocif? Is that a French word? What might be a French word?
Nocif. Like it's very, very bad for the body when you have food that is not being digested properly.
That's how I know you're really good at speaking two languages, is when you don't really know what one's what.
Oh,
you're
sometimes
like, that's just the word for the thing.
Whatever, Nocif. N-O-C-I-F in French.
It could be an English word too.
Anyway, right. So that the body hates that. So that's why, like, when you have 3 lunches, you're stuck in between. The quantity of food that you ingested means the body was like, well, I need to chill.
Yeah.
Parasympathetic. The problem is you have a day, it's light, and the other part of your body is like, no, but we're supposed to go and kick ass. And that clash is very nocive for your body. It's actually, Tyler is freaking out about I'm just explaining people just listening. Tyler is freaking out about the videos, making sure he turn them on.
We had just a meltdown that last one, and I just had to really double check.
Right, but that was the audio, that wasn't you.
Well, so, it's me.
Yeah, it's always
I'll
you.
I'll blame it on the audio,
yeah.
but it was me, and it would have been me this time.
Yeah, and so the key is that, right? The key is to respect circadian rhythms. That means that anything that creates that feeling is not to be had during the day. So that means what? That means that certain foods that are high in animal protein usually trigger a parasympathetic response. So that means that large quantities of food are not to be eaten during the day in one setting. You can have food all day, but like, you know that, like, if you keep snacking, eventually you kind of downregulate because you just introduce so much food into your system. It has to chill you out so you can process the thing because it's actually very energy consuming to eat and digest.
Now, I want to go back to eggs just because this is an interesting
then we're going to get into
that
this.
I've kind of played with a little bit too. Is now you are okay with the idea of splitting, say, the egg white and the egg yolk.
Oh yeah, of course.
So the egg yolk itself would be considered primarily fat.
Because it's all fat.
Yeah. So
the egg white.
One of the things that I've done essentially since Richard's eggs episode of the cooking show is first I made my kid cook me an omelet based on it. And by God, he nailed it. So I'm handing off my egg cooking duties, But for breakfast for me, these last handful of days, is I've basically taken eggs and I'll split them into whites and yolks.
Yeah,
and then we will cook. I mean, the three of us, it might be 8 eggs, maybe 9 eggs, just the yolk, into a little omelet, a little bit of cheese, some butter, and some garlic and salt. And I can tell you, if you eat like the same liquid mass of that versus say whole eggs, when you're gonna make it like that, I eat way less volume, so I don't feel carrying around such bloating. But because of the fat and the cheese and everything, I'm very satiated right away, and not in a way that makes me eat and need to rest or anything like that. And I can tell you would probably notice the difference if you had that omelet versus another in the morning, and how your day went.
Yeah, exactly.
And then and that's how I know what I'm going to have in the morning is the yolks.
Right. So there's always the thing. People I tell you, but I love having eggs in the morning. Like if you have 1 or 2. The quantity of protein in it is probably low enough that it doesn't trigger that big of a parasympathetic response. Still not a good idea to do it. So let me make clear, even if it's 2 eggs, just have the yolks. But they have just enough fat as energy, right? But the protein might not be high enough to trigger something. But try with 3-4 eggs and then you'll feel it. Yeah. The point of all this also of the protocol was that you need to understand that most people understand signal as conscious thoughts. Yeah. That's what I've noticed the most and we have many podcasts as to why people do that, which I find very interesting, where you go like, I have 2 eggs, I feel fine, therefore protein and stuff like that. It's like, even if you have just 2 eggs, you might have a parasympathetic response that is not strong enough to come to your conscious thoughts. That doesn't mean it's not happening. So that means that you're still triggering a state for your body that is not the optimal, that is not the correct one. It's not good or bad, but that is not.
And there is like
according to circadian rhythm, it's not the good one.
How long throughout a day when you're working, like how far into it do you have to get your energy level sapped a little bit before you are being like, oh man, I don't feel all that. Yeah. Like it kind of takes a bit.
Right. And if people knew what I know about the consequences of disturbing the circadian rhythm, they would pay a lot more attention. Like it has been linked to everything because that has to do with light and stuff like that. We're talking about, Ed Kai, he's doing a lot of work on that with light and everything. It's very interesting. But you're talking mental illness. There's a relationship, not causation relationship. We'll talk about that during the Q&A too. Yeah. The difference between relationship and causation. Not causation, but relationship between schizophrenia and circadian rhythm. We know that disturbing circadian rhythm make mental illness symptoms far worse. There's a number of things like that. So the idea is to have, we are built a certain way, and the key is to respect that. And so protein or large quantities of food has to be kept for 9 times. So let's but not all quantities of food. So let me restate. Protein at night, fats during the day, carbs only when you train. Why fats during the day? Because you need energy, and fats are a good source of energy. Fats also have another quality, is you cannot eat too much of them without being sick.
Yeah.
You can eat too much steak, you can have too much carbs, you can't have too much fat. You'll feel sick.
Yeah.
You'll go puke and everything. So you get that
It's easier for me to find like an auto-regulated sweet spot for intake
with
when
fat.
it's just fat.
There's no question,
Yeah.
right? Your body will know right away. If you have too much, right away you feel like puking. So fat is a good source of energy, and you will auto-regulate how much you eat of it. Yeah. So you won't have too much. At night, it's basically go crazy on the protein. So all the animal stuff like eggs, fish, meat, chicken, all that stuff. And carbs only during training, because they trigger such a sympathetic response that you want it to be a large boost that is being used, but not something. So if you have carbs all day, what you do is you're creating that kind of high sympathetic response, but not through environment, but through substance. So there's still a gap between your environment and you.
Yeah.
And that's the key. If you have a sympathetic, you're supposed to be in sympathetic during the day, but through your environment. Your environment makes you move and react and stuff like that. Then your system knows how to deal with that. If you raise your sympathetic system, but not in accordance to your environment, there will be a gap between the two. Your body will not understand why it is in such sympathetic response when the environment does not justify that.
Yeah.
So that'll make you disengage from your environment in that sense, because you won't understand. What's the name of getting disengaged? We just talked about it before the podcast. Boredom.
Yeah.
How interesting is that?
Yeah.
That's going to be the next podcast. But so that means that
I've got approximately 50 pages to get caught up reading, and then we'll be ready.
But we'll do it on the next one, because we can just cover it. But disengaging from your environment is so, because I want to go into a podcast like, is boredom a pathology? Because it seems to be. And that's the problem when we put names. We say boredom, we say anxiety, everything. It seems it's all of it is the same. It's just a dial.
Yeah.
But boredom is a very I believe it's a pathology. I believe it's something that shows that you're disengaging from your environment. So having carbs that elicit a response that does not match the environment could lead to boredom, if we understand what boredom means. Boredom can be lack of stimulation or too much stimulation, depending on what it is. So there's the entire rabbit hole here we'll talk about.
Yeah.
But
I think, and with the macronutrient stuff and back to the eggs thing, is I think a lot of people are just trying to kind of defend in this case, with eggs, always seems to me you're just defending your breakfast, I guess.
Yes, that's what you want. Yeah.
And that's okay. I can tell you can have perfectly good eggs with just yolk, cheese, cream, I don't know. It's delicious, it's rich, it's fantastic.
Good that with avocados.
And it's the perfect kind of filling. You know, I don't know. I don't have any problems. It's just not that hard.
No, I think they just want to eat eggs.
Yeah, this is okay.
It's just not the protocol.
Yeah. So that's it. And so, but I would recommend, if it doesn't do, I mean, like I said, split it. Try the yolks in the morning and see if it feels better.
Keep the whites for nighttime.
Yeah.
You take the whites, you put it with steak, you mix it. It makes great. I mean.
Yeah. So.
Speaking of that, real quick, someone asked if the protocol is what you say it is. How come people can get lean with other diets?
Oh yeah, I think the specifics were how other people are lean out there and they're mixing their carbs and their protein together.
Right.
And
so,
if fundamentally the nutrition protocol that you are talking about is right, that shouldn't be able to happen.
Right. So few things on that subject. First of all, your measure of the effectiveness of a diet is body fat percentage. Right. So when a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure. I got to tell you, it doesn't work like that. First of all, let's start two things. So first thing is your measure of success for a diet is body fat percentage. Mm-hmm. Right. I can have the worst diet in the world, take specific drugs, and get very lean.
Yeah.
Right. You don't know if that's happening or not. So you cannot measure the effectiveness of a diet on body fat percentage. Some people are naturally leaner than others. Some people do a lot of cardio, others almost none at all. So it doesn't work like that. Now that being said, obviously being too fat is a problem. But walking around at 5% body fat you have to have the genetics for that. And not always, but sometimes also the drugs that come with that stuff, and be very careful with the macros and stuff like that. So is there a way to manipulate macros to walk around at under 10% body fat? Of course there is. That's something we covered with Kyla during one of the early nutrition protocol podcasts. And as she was saying, at the time she was following, I don't want to call somebody out, but someone's diet that is fairly famous out there. And she was at the leanest at the time. She had lost a lot of weight. And she was very lean and having like 400 grams of carbs a day or whatever it was, mixed with protein and all that stuff. So if you look at it from a body fat percentage, that diet was successful. Now, she was in a constant state of low-grade sympathetic response, which means inflammation throughout the day. Her shoulders were shot. She could barely put her arms overhead. She was in a very bad mood constantly. She had lost her periods. She was could not be around people because she was snapping everybody, sleeping 4 hours a night.
And it puts a ceiling on your performance potential as well. I mean, it really does. Like walking around at 5% body fat is
she wasn't, but we're talking
in general. Is not where, like, that's not a place where you're actually recovering and developing strength.
Yeah.
That is depletion, and that's okay. You can get into there to get lean.
If you're an Instagram model, take enough drugs.
And then you take a bounce back, and you know, so you can make because you can't sustain that forever.
No, and by the way, speaking of that, most Instagram models, women take Anavar. Out there on Instagram. Yeah. It's the most insane stuff ever. Yeah. So whenever you see lean people, don't assume like that
depends on if they're getting Anavar from the doctor, and if they're not getting Anavar from a doctor, Anavar that comes from underground labs, it's kind of expensive to syndicate or to synthesize, like as opposed to testosterone and things like that. So if they're getting Anavar from underground labs, there's a pretty good chance they're just taking low dose Dianabol and sold as fucking Anavar. So all of those things, you got to just take what works for you and use it, for Christ's sake.
But on top of it, like, please do not measure diet on body fat. No. It's like how much weight did you lose or stuff like that. That is not a diet. So what do we think?
I also don't think that trying to measure whether or not the StrongFit nutrition protocol is sensible or not based upon
that
all of the other diets and what other people look like in the world who aren't on it. I don't think that's the fucking metric, because if I had to do the math, there's a lot more people who are really, like, much higher percentage of people who are overweight that aren't doing the nutrition protocol than are
in the population.
That just seems like that's not where we need to shine the light.
How do we measure success for the StrongFit protocol? Sleep gets better.
Yeah.
You have clear signals, so emotional stuff like that. We have seen anxiety coming down a lot. We have helped a lot of people with depression. Some women, their periods come. A lot of the women have been doing the one-on-one with, their periods come back, mood goes up from the clear signals, inflammation goes down. Inflammation goes down means you lose water weight. We see that a lot with the protocol. A lot of people lose a lot of water at first. So we had to tell them to take electrolytes because they're getting dehydrated from losing so much water. That's a sign, by the way, when you gain water like that, that's a sign either you're not recovering enough, or you're always in that low-grade sympathetic, like the stress and everything, you gain water. Easiest way to lose water is not starving yourself, is to deal with the stress, not cut out the stress. Deal with the stress.
And I can tell always now, especially when I'm not mixing carbohydrates all the time, is now when I do have, it's good and bad, I guess. When I have like stressors, just stress, I fucking I'll put on, but I know. And what it is so now any sympathetic response in general from just me responding to external factors, I can recognize, I can see it, I can feel it, I know what that is.
And why are clear signals necessary? For that reason. I know I'm pushing the training too hard. Water retention and not digestive issue, but bowel movement issues. Because I start to go in sympathetic all the time. That's the SLL and everything. I'm still waiting for the result, but I'm sure I'm there. Where for me it's stuff like that. It's like suddenly my system is not flushing all the stuff the way it should, and I start to hold water. That's always a sign I'm dude, take a day off. So how do I know that now? Because I can see my body and I'm like, I need a day off. Because sometimes, when my head gets in it, I'm like, no, I don't want a day off.
Well, and I'm also able to tell, it's strange. I don't even know, maybe the mechanism doesn't respond this quickly. I don't know. But I feel like I wake up in the morning. Maybe I think a lot of people feel like they wake up in the morning and that's kind of the leanest.
Yes.
Yeah, most mornings. For me, for me that's not always the case. But I'm having some recalibration issues with my sleep apnea a little bit since sleeping on the floor.
Oh,
As a whole nother thing.
Really?
I think my pressure demands are even less now when I'm on the floor. Think about it. My size,
Right,
my back, my
right,
shape. If
right.
I'm on a mattress, it's constantly folding me in a little bit.
Yep.
And that machine has to resist that pressure. Me being on my back is opened up and breathing is different. And I can tell because when I wake up in the morning, I'll literally be full of air. Like actually like air in my stomach. Because if you have too much pressure, every peak of your breathing, you get just a little bit that you end up swallowing if it's not quite right. And as I've lost weight and so I'll wake up some mornings, my stomach will be like full of air. No, and then I'll be like, Megan, and dude, 30 minutes of just farting. Like
30 minutes.
30 minutes, just loud, don't smell, so she can't even be mad, so they're hilarious. But she's like, you need to fix that fucking thing. Yeah. But anyway, other than that, like I'll wake up in the morning, but I feel like I hold a little water because I think I might be having some rough sleep towards the end of my sleep cycle.
Yeah,
with my machine.
No, it's that fast. Like any stress, you hold water.
But then what I find is I get up and get moving. I get a little bit of fat in, and by the time I get over to train, like having been either mostly fast or having some fat, once my body is moving, and I'm in like what you would describe as a flow state, a little bit of training, 20-minute bike ride out.
Yeah. When you start,
then I'm leaner than I was 4 hours before.
Yeah,
and it just seems really interesting to me. And when if my stress goes up, if I anything else, I can almost see it on my body or in my face.
That's another thing. That's another thing to our nutrition too. Like, and I believe that's on purpose by the industry, where when it comes to body fat percentage, they basically how fat are you. We never consider how much water we're holding from stress. Mm-hmm. That is because we hear fat, we hear body fat percentage. Body fat is just, like the white adipose tissue. Yeah. It was built, is there and everything. But actually, that's not true. A lot of what is part of the body fat percentage is water retention. Mm-hmm. Like the dude who lost like 800 pounds, 600 pounds was water. Yeah. So, so we never talk about this because if we start to say water retention, then we know it's not just food. Yep. Stress is part of it. So in all those nutrition protocols and stuff like that, no one wants to talk about water retention. Yeah. Come on, because that's how you deal with life, and it's not how you deal with food. So again, they are taking all the stuff and putting it in one basket to make it easier to sell and easier for you to swallow, basically.
Well, and I think nowadays where people have a lot of free time at the moment with lockdown stuff, and there's a lot of big change and uncertainty and stress and money problems, and everybody has it now,
and everybody's boozing like crazy.
Yeah, and so don't judge me. I've been taking it pretty easy actually, only because the bars are closed. And
exactly. So that
and sad drinking at the table.
Exactly. That makes it boring.
It's not the most fun thing in the world. Though Megan and I did go out for King's Day 2 days ago.
Monday.
And,
2 days ago. Yeah.
And grabbed a bottle of wine and sat on the bridge and just watch people partying in their houses. Yeah, it was nice.
Oh, no, everybody was outside.
Yeah, it was nice. Yeah. But where was it going? But so with this, we do have time on our hands. And I think what a better opportunity to like align your consumption of macronutrients. So really line this up, fats in the day. Yeah. Like this is the time to do it because now you have all this weird shit and weird stressors and like I think clearing up that low grade inflammation is extremely important now. Otherwise you're going to be kind of swimming in it all fucking day.
Yeah, and this is the worst thing for your immune system, I'm just saying. So stop gauging if a diet works by how lean you got. I have so many women that say, I did that particular template. But what they're not telling you is sleep went down, lost their periods, got super grumpy, stuff like that. That they don't want to talk about it because they could see their abs.
Yeah, and because then it's also unsustainable. It's good.
Right. By the way, I was going to add that.
You just can't tend to that forever. So exactly. I got here, and now what? It's a tool that you have that we're going to take away from you now.
Yeah. So
you can't do more of that magnitude.
Right. Exactly. And you can't count macros all the time because that leads to anxiety and everything. So a measure of success for a nutrition protocol should also be sustainability. Yeah, that should be a major one because if you just want to lose weight for 6 weeks or whatever, that's not that hard to do. Just get out your fat ass. Yeah. start moving more, stop eating the donuts. Like, it's not that hard. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like, but that's not a protocol. That's just a diet for just because you have a wedding coming up or some shit, or the beach season or whatever, or a photo shoot or stuff like that. This number, like, it's not that hard. Like, you don't need a StrongFit protocol for that.
And my question is always with that stuff is I'm not making any guarantees that like that eating this way with the protocol is going to turn around your mental health overnight or anything. But I think there's
Not
definitely
overnight, but
extremely positive impacts on this. Like more so than any other nutritional system I've seen.
And we've seen it 1,000 times. We have so many data from people now telling us the emails, the message, the StrongFit community, like it's just
and so I think that's
lifestyle.
I think that's what you want. And the other thing is being able to just kick off your night with eat some protein, wind down, circadian rhythms, sleep. Good night's sleep. Get up in the morning with energy during the day. What if that's all it gave you? And then you could find your way to leanness and performance.
What if he just gave you good sleep?
Yeah.
Well, just that.
Yeah.
Just that. If he gave you really good sleep.
Yeah. And then you play with the
Do you know what your
quantities until you get jacked.
performance? Yeah. Do you know what your performance would jump up, and you also would get leaner because you wouldn't have as much water retention.
Yeah.
Just good sleep. And good sleep, like people are gonna have good sleep. It's like, no, I'm not saying you fall asleep at 11, you wake up at 7 in the morning. Do you have vivid dreams? Do you have emotional dreams?
Yeah.
Do you feel emotions? Do your dreams give you emotions? There you go. Mm-hmm. If your dreams give you emotion, you know, like when you're in it, it's like Morpheus style. It's like, how would you know? If you were not to wake up, how would you know which one is real?
Yeah.
Right. Are your dreams that vivid? Right. Are your dreams giving you emotion? If not, then you're not sleeping well.
Yeah.
Because we've seen it on the protocol time and time and time again. People have very strange dreams and they're in it. Like they live the dream. Are you living your dreams? And if you're not, then you don't have good sleep because that means your brain is not healing. Yeah. Your mind is not healing.
Yeah. So other questions we've got.
Well.
We had something off of the French Q&A. We also had...
the parasympathetic stuff. Right. So someone was asking, like internal torque and parasympathetic, because they say like the large muscle group require a lot of intensity, even the internal torque ones. And so it seems to me that the person was confusing intensity and sympathetic. So to explain that, let me take sprinting. I have a sprinter. He does a 100 meter sprint. Is it and I look at the stride, right? Mm-hmm. And I say it's an internal torque. It was like, well, how can it be an internal torque since it's a maximum velocity exercise? Is a 100 meter sprint maximum velocity?
Probably not.
Let me explain to you. Yeah. How many strides?
It is for me in 100 meters.
Well, actually, but that's the problem. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not. People. That's where the problem with words is. People associate like scientific definition, like exercise science, and the common usage we use. So when we say 100 meters, that's as fast as it can go. Yes, for 100 meters. That does not mean maximum velocity. It means maximum velocity for 100 meters. Yeah. What do I mean? Maximum velocity is pure explosiveness, is pure strength. Yeah. Right. How many strides on a 100 meters?
You're asking the wrong guy.
40s.
Yeah.
No, because I remember Alto Bolton said like 46 for him. It was sure. 40 strides.
Yeah.
Is 40 strides, 40 reps max strength? No. It's strength endurance.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why we know they slow down at 7 seconds. Right. You know what's max velocity? When you go off the blocks. Mm-hmm. When you go off the blocks, that's as explosive. It's a max jump. That one is the max explosive stuff. And that one is in external torque. That one is sympathetic. But then the rest, you switch to parasympathetic because you are not in a maximum explosive movement. You're going as fast as you can. That does not mean you're in the most explosive stuff. Otherwise, you jump up on the sprint.
Yeah.
It's not, you know what I mean? So do not confuse intensity and explosiveness.
Yeah.
It's not the same. You can be at a maximum intensity on a 100 meter sprint while being in internal torque and while being more toward the flow state. Mm-hmm. That fight flow state.
And so let's elaborate on this for me, because this is actually, this point is always something I think people get a little bit blurry until they really just go out and do it in practice. You're kind of going to feel it, right? If you go out and try to run, we'll say 100 meters, but in my case, it would be less. If we're going to run 100 meters at a dead out sprint, like just this is 100 meters, do or die, the fastest, this time lives forever. And you're going to run out at that pace. You're going to jump off and you're going to be going in internal torque in a very elevated peaked flow state during that sprint.
The internal torque starts at least 3 meters.
Once you're moving off the block.
So, for example, if we say maximum speed, you have to define the constraint.
Yeah.
You know, of the thing, for example, maximum speed off the blocks for the first 2 meters, or maximum speed
over the course of,
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So then in my case, I go, I'm flowing as well as I'm going to do. We should use a different person than me. But I go and say I'm just all out, and I get to almost the finish line, and then let's just pretend that it at that moment becomes a 200-meter race instead of a 100-meter race. Then what happens is I continue to push, and I'm going to be fatigued. My intensity of my experience is going to be actually going up, but my output is at the moment where people just start completely falling apart.
That's right.
And,
like you have to understand the difference. Remind me why a muscle is bigger. Is it stronger or weaker? After that, remind me to talk about this, because that's actually a good point you just made. So the problem is that people associate the wrong idea with the wrong thing. Of course, large muscle require a lot of intensity. But for example, do you have great intensity when you do dumbbell presses for 6 if you go to failure? Mm-hmm. Yes. You have great intensity if you go for 12 reps and go to failure?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. What about 15?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So it has nothing to do with strength or strength endurance or muscle endurance. Intensity, just how far you're pushing, basically. Yeah. That's all. And so the key, for example, toward the flow, toward internal torque, what it gives you coordination. Some exercises like jumping off the block requires less coordination than the stride halfway through the run, right? So off the blocks, your external torque is very explosive, but you have low coordination. High internal torque exercise like that stride is high coordination, but less explosiveness. That's why you see the runners, they're actually extremely technical. You can see how relaxed their face is, right? They are their maximum of coordination while engaging the muscle to their fullest. But if you see off the blocks, you'll see the face change. That's where the sympathetic, parasympathetic is different. I mean, but it's a matter of coordination as well. Whenever you need great coordination, you will be toward internal torque always.
And you can always tell you slap somebody on a sled and have them push it fast as shit till they die. Where the coordination switches. Once all of a sudden,
King Arthur,
every single person starts.
Their feet go over the
because
place.
It's a safe way to express total failure on all levels. You wouldn't want to go to that with a bar on your back, I'll tell you that.
No,
but
that's for sure.
You can do it on a sled, and everyone moves by the end of it sloppy as fuck. If you're doing it right. Like I do think at least on the sled, if you get all the way to the end and you're like your shit's still tight and you
could have gone harder.
It's like us, man. This is the place where you can come apart. That's kind of the point.
On the sled sprint, that means you could have gone harder. But the key is always that. The key is that coordination. Coordination happens in internal torque.
Yeah.
I mean, if you push hard enough, you will leave that.
I usually know when I'm pushing the sled, when I cross the threshold. First, also, tie your shoes when you push the sled, guys. That's my... I get so sloppy when I get tired on the sled.
It goes over the place.
My fucking shoes come off. And,
you have no control. So.
None, completely. And I'm like pushing on where I can find a mat.
But if you associate... intensity and the sympathetic, that means that you're saying that a 100 meter sprint, they have a greater intensity than a 200 meter sprint. No, they're just going faster on the 100 meters because it's shorter. But that's not the notion of intensity.
Yeah.
And
that won't directly relate to the parasympathetic.
Right, and or we're saying intensity, 1% of your 1 rep max, like they do in powerlifting. But then in that case, you have low intensity on a 100 meter sprint anyway, since it's 40 reps.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why it's not...
Terminology makes
right, that's the problem, it's terminology. Yeah. And to go back to the point you were making, which made me think about another one very importantly, because we're going to go into terminology, but also the way that people, their conception of certain things is incorrect. Now, let's say I have a larger muscle group, right? I have a larger left bicep, let's say, than the right one. Is that muscle weaker or stronger?
I would say stronger.
Stronger, right. That's what most people will say. Now, imagine if that bicep is weaker, right, by 10%. If I use the same weight on both hands, who's doing more work?
If they're the same.
No, they're not the same. This is 10% weaker than this one.
Oh, then this one. Then the 10% weaker one is doing more work.
Right.
Because it's relative to...
So what happens if it does more work?
It should get stronger.
Right, but it should also grow
Yes. Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
So it is very possible that muscle is bigger because it is weaker. So it's doing more work at the same intensity as this one. So which means you're going to be limited. Let's say you do barbell curl. You're going to be limited by this anyway.
Yeah.
So that means this one is kind of working,
Yeah.
but this one is working really hard. So this one would grow. This one wouldn't. Not as much.
How did they get that way in the first place?
Genetic weaknesses, injuries, trauma, emotional mapping,
all those things that come
weakness on one side versus the
decades
other.
on Earth. There can be one thing
Sports,
or another.
rotational sports, again, trauma. There can be many reasons on that one. But, I mean?
That is very interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's the body, it's not that simple. So there's the problem when people want to oversimplify stuff, is they miss important concept. Like someone on the template was saying that the phase 3 is flow work. I was like, fuck no, it isn't. Not the way I finish it. Right. Like when you finish that minute on the sprint, by the end of the minute, your coordination should go to shit. Yeah. When I do the 30 seconds airdyne, I can tell you something, it's ugly by the end. Yeah. You know, like when you go all over the fucking place, I can almost kill myself twice. You know, when you slip off the pedal and then you scratch your shin and all that shit. If you go hard enough, that's how you feel. So you might start in flow for the first 20, 30 seconds, but you're certainly not finishing in flow.
Yeah.
It's not a flow workout because they were trying to say you finish in IT because those are IT movement. Well, they start in IT, but they finish in ET because if you push hard enough, which is the point, you're going to go past that.
And sometimes it's like, I always want, I mean, it matters with these things because they get woven within a workout is where the IT and where simply, I get like, but I think it's tough because we always want to teach the value of this. We need to focus more on these things because these things matter. And then there's some times where I just want to go through the workout and just be like, mark this part red, just say, this is where you set yourself on fire.
Yeah, exactly.
This is where you're just like,
once you know. There are steps. Once you know the difference between IT and ET, it's time to forget about it and just fucking train.
Yeah.
Like sometimes when I do a movement and there's 90+% on the bar, I'm not going to ask myself if I'm in IT or ET.
Yeah.
I need to move the fucking thing.
Yeah.
Except by now, if I've done the work, it's assimilated, it's second nature. I should not have to think anymore. Yeah. You can't think at 90%. Yeah. Like people have to understand. So like sometimes it's good to take a step back and study, but sometimes you also have to practice. So when you start to go training, man, just train.
Well, like there's some of those, and again, if you're using the right tool for the job, your injury risk is not that high. Like we've had people bust my balls on like we're doing sled drag sprints. It's like, geez, you're kind of falling apart on that one. I was like, yeah, because I was working really fucking hard.
Yes,
I was
exactly.
well exceeding my ability to do anything well.
The last 2 meters were fucking ugly. They're always ugly. And that's the point, is you can't do that with a barbell. Yeah. Those two ugly reps with a barbell will kill you.
Yeah, well, and that's
but you can do it with a sled.
Like, anyone who's ever commented on something, a video on Instagram or something where it's like, oh, I see the left leg's doing this or that. I'm like, bitch, because I'm working hard. Like I worked until my shit fucking fell apart. And if you did that more often, you wouldn't be so small. Or whatever your problem is that makes me hate you for commenting.
And coming back to this, right? If you don't do that, you will always stay within the parameters of your weaker muscle imbalance or whatever you have, which means you'll never progress.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And so there's a need to push past fuck it.
I think we're coming up with a new shirt every week. Push past fuck it.
but it's that, like, you can tell I'm thicker, like, and I stay actually at the same body fat, which makes me happy, but I've gained weight. I'm probably at least 106 now, I can tell, because none of my shirts fit anymore, which is why I like those, because they're nice and tight. But it's like, you should see the workload on the stuff. It's like, whenever I do the first set, I focus on form and everything. But then after that, there's always that moment I'm like, that shit is moving. It's either you or me, bitch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But one of us is losing today. It ain't gonna be me. And especially on the strongman days, I did the 800-pound yoke carry. No, it was not a good idea. I paid for it for the entire week. Like, thank God the 4 weeks split is over. I get to rest now because, oh my God, I'm destroyed. But it's that stuff where I was like, was it a good idea? No, it wasn't. I just done 340 kilos, like 760. That was fine for the day. But sometimes
you got to go for it. I have a question. What about, I've heard this from a couple of my clients, and since I'm kind of aware of their needs individually with them coming in or out of quarantine stuff, with the template, just starting on it from being quarantined, what would your advice be for someone like that? Like if I've spent the last month in my apartment,
and you start training again?
And I sign up on your template. Is there like a couple weeks to just do maybe those exercises to get familiar with the exercises?
Do only the lowest exercises. Yeah. Do only the strongman days.
Yeah.
Like don't do the overhead yoke carry, do the rope pulls, do the sled drags, do the sled pushes, maybe some yoke carries, but medium weight, stuff like that. Just work your structure back in. Don't do the bodybuilding. Don't do the powerlifting.
Yeah, get familiar with the movements and the exercises so you know where you are.
So low waist. Yeah. We have an entire podcast on the waist. Go watch it. Do low waist exercises. The stuff that cannot hurt you until you can start pushing at a good level. If you go with the powerlifting or the bodybuilding, the amount of eccentric alone will fuck you up.
It'll be rough, especially if you're coming off being nearly sedentary or just home workouts.
Like, don't do that. You'll be so sore. Like, I know it's fun once in a while, and we say soreness triggers growth, but there's always a moment past which it's just going to stress the fuck out of your body.
Soreness triggers growth. My ass cheeks could be huge this week.
Yeah, exactly. Because
I haven't barely been able to lay down.
That's the walking lunges, right?
Walking lunges. Every time I do it, I'm like, I need to do this more often, and then I do it, and I say, I'm never doing this again.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I spend the whole week saying, I'm never doing it again.
That's a good sign.
It means, actually, I'm pretty certain it's something I need to probably do at that load, probably just like twice a week. Just because for me, it's really good for muscle.
Yeah.
At least I feel them all week instead of being like, where are they when I go to the gym?
Right, so you'll get used to it. It just takes 2-3 months. On those muscles that don't want to work, people have to understand, when you do something on muscle that joins the party right away, 2 weeks you get results. If it's a muscle that doesn't engage, it's 3 months.
Yeah. It's
like
weird.
My biceps, they're finally starting to answer. But I've been doing stuff every day for at least over 2 months now.
I had the sweet spot with the biceps with some of the machines I had in Vienna, and then now with what we have, I'm back to tools that are less effective for me necessarily. Yeah. Just things that I am not the best at, like dumbbell curls. Tough way for me to get biceps. I can do really well on cable and leverage and things like that.
I had to work on the form with the curls a lot. Yeah. So it took me 2 months to find actually the correct technique for me to engage the bicep. I realized I was engaging everything but the bicep.
Yeah. I find it's very interesting. I do most of my curls with my tendons primarily. It feels like
that's what it felt like too. Me, it was all here, stuff like that.
Yeah, everything's like just connective tissue pulling on the joint.
That's what it felt like.
It's like, man, I don't know. Yeah. Nothing feels like burn. But anyway, that has been. So you go to that now. You kind of have to always relearn, and that part has been interesting. So I've got a couple more.
Yeah.
See if we had some quick ones here.
Yeah, because there was those were the ones we said. Was there another one?
There was. I had a few that were kind of around here.
There was.
How about this? Did we do this one?
No.
What about... Oh, how about this one? Who is the most handsome coach? Listen, the answer is Richard.
Fine. He has a smile.
How about this one? I don't know. Did we get into this? I think this is a good one for kind of new people, really, because it's a very basic question. If I can't get into a deep squat position, how should I use StrongFit foundations and exercises to explore getting a stronger and deeper squat? And there's a fundamental question at the root of this always too that is usually comes up, which is how deep should you squat right now for you and your mobility? And there's more of an understanding to that than just being like, I want to peg that ass to grass squat right now.
So anything below parallel means you need to engage internal torque muscles. So that means that inside hammy, glute max, whatever that is, they are not joining the party at the weight you're trying to squat. So that means that most likely when the weight is light, you have no issues breaking parallel. And as the second it gets heavy, you stop. So there's usually a weight past which you just cannot break parallel.
Yeah.
The reason is that weight is too heavy for either your inside hammies, your glute max, or your external obliques.
Yeah.
Right? So basically for your internal torque chain. So you need to build that up. So how do you do that? I would use the sandbags because for many reasons you cannot default to the external torque chain to use the sandbags. It's a much more natural movement. It's lower on the waist, so it will allow you to feel the inside of your legs better. But basically, you need to build your internal torque chain.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, again, just like when the guy said being lean is a measure of success for a diet, breaking parallel on your squat is not necessarily a measure of your success.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that break parallel on the squat just by relaxing under the weight, which is a terrible idea.
That is a method that I used often. I could pull down, and if it got to that point, I would basically just kind of let up.
Yeah, exactly.
But that is not the way to do it.
That is not the way to squat. That is very dangerous. The reason you can't squat below parallel is because your body is not letting you. Thank God.
Yeah.
Because you're not ready.
Yeah.
You're not ready. So how do you use the StrongFit principles? You build the internal torque chain. So external obliques, inside hammy, glutes. If, again, start with a sandbag, right? And you're going to feel like your adductors are going to tear, like you're going to feel your hammies, you're going to be so sore. And then keep doing that. So if you can't break parallel, as a rule, every time you squat, your adductors or hammies and glute max should be sore. If they are not, make them sore. That's a good sign.
Yeah. Well, and that is
find a way to make them sore.
Make them sore. If you're squatting,
change your form until your adductors, hammies, and glutes are sore.
Yeah. And with a sandbag, it's much easier to get there. Yeah. One of the things don't do this if you have not done much of this, but one of the things
in the last 4 weeks,
one of the things that I've done before was if I just feel like I needed a kickstarter, my squat was all fucked up, is I'd just spend a couple of weeks where I would just squat with bags, but with no real progression.
Yeah.
So what I would do is I would go in the gym. We had a shit ton of sandbags, light to super heavy, and so my plan would be I was going to squat every sandbag for 10 reps, every single one. Which ends up being
do that after 5 weeks being inactive.
It ends up being about 350 reps of it. Even more fun is doing that with the floor press, by the way. If you're bench, that's a little more rewarding than walking around with your legs and ass just crushed for another week. But in that case, same thing. I was able to squat, find it, then the next time go back, do it well, and then when I was able to translate to the bar much better with just a little bit of relearning. Sometimes we spend too much time with the bar. We only compensate to the bar, and that takes you too far one direction.
Yeah, that's another very important point. Is most of the time your problem is not with the squat; it's with the barbell.
Yeah,
which a lot of that is not being talked about either. Because if we start to say that the problem is the barbell, not the squat, here goes 80% of programs and how-to videos and money out there.
Yeah.
That would take the money out of everything if we said the problem is the barbell.
Yeah.
That's why, just like no one wants to, you won't find studies about coffee being bad for you.
No.
You will not find programs saying barbell is bad for you, ever. Everybody will defend that to the death.
That coffee thing is interesting. I was going to send you something about that the other day because I had seen on all these really trusted things, everything's it's just a hand-picked, very specialized study in which this instance here, coffee provides this little change that can't fucking be elaborated into anything useful, but then it's just one more piece. They just take that one thing and they're like...
So what they do is they take each piece and do a study on separately.
It's like coffee, good for your heart health, but it's really good for this one singular metric and pays no attention to fucking anything.
And we're not saying if the other stuff is lowering the other.
Yeah.
So if I have, 10 things that get +5, but 20 things that gets -5, guess where you are in the negative. But if I do a study and I only study the stuff that give you +5, you're at +50. Everything is great. We're just forgetting that there's a -100 too.
Yeah.
That's what most of that stuff is. And with the barbell, I have yet to see those guys on Instagram and we always with the glute med and then the knees out and everything, explaining to you that you have a barbell problem. Yeah. It's always you. But we've done that test so many times where we have problem with people knees caving in when they were squatting with a bar and everything. We give them a sandbag, problem is there, but half or even less than half suddenly I have people that cannot squat below parallel with a barbell. They can squat below parallel with a sandbag. Like we've done this time and time again at seminars. So we've seen it, I don't know, 100, 1,000 times plus by now, right?
Yeah.
And it's never the barbell. It's your glute med, it's your knees out, it's stuff like that. I'm like, guys.
And even in compared to the value, I guess, of the sandbag squat is, for me, isn't just that like the bar causes you problems, because the bar can cause you some positional issues, tension problems. But then if you take somebody and have them air squat, a lot of times those same issues are going to be present in that pattern. What I like about the sandbag is it's not just that we're removing the bar, it's that we're forcing the right tension.
Right, that too. But if we're going to go at the problem is you, then that means whether it's a sandbag or it's an air squat or it's a barbell back squat, the problem is the same.
Yeah.
Right, and yet we don't see that.
Yeah.
So, by the way, it's you as well. But my point is we need to integrate the fact as whether the barbell creates the wrong patterns, if not handled properly.
Yeah.
But we never make the problem about the barbell, just like the problem is never coffee.
Yeah.
Like there's too much money running on barbells in the fitness industry for this ever to come out. But we're going back to the same. I know I talk about the evil of capitalism, like they're all going to think I'm a Trotskyist. By the way, I would not be a Leninist, I would be a Trotskyist. Anyway, revolution always, man. I'm an anarchist at heart, so I want to see the world burn. I just things will never change.
That makes two of us there. So.
But the point is, like, be careful when you talking about squatting below parallel. You are saying with a barbell back squat with a barbell. Try with a sandbag. Tell me the problem is the same. People need to start. You know what I notice is that people are good with small amount of time and small numbers. If it's one correlation over one day and not too many different things, then they're going okay. But the second you have to put like 3 different things at the same time, like no one wants to listen anymore. Like they're like, oh fuck it, it's too complicated, right? But you have to be careful with that. It's like that, the whole like squatting below parallel, again, barbell and sandbag is not the same. So it's not that simple. Like that's the problem. And so that's why what I talk about is more abstract and not always very practical, because by the way you're asking, I can already tell that you're asking the wrong question. Not to say that people ask wrong questions are dumb, but it's I can't remember who said that the intelligence of a man is not measured by the answers he gives, but by the questions he asks. Right. If you formulate your question correctly, usually you'll be able to answer them. Yeah. So when you say I cannot break parallel, that is not true. You cannot break parallel with a barbell. But if you were to look at your own questions, you realize that the problem might be the barbell and not you. And I don't know, but that's something that needs to be explored. Well, don't necessarily assume that the problem is you.
And that's why finding, like, with all of this information is understanding that what sits behind it is the difference. Exactly. And a good example of this was something we had posted the other day with Michael from Special Fit. He was on with, I'm not going to remember her name, but they were talking about, he was doing the nutrition stuff on a YouTube video. She was talking about her son with autism. I think he's 16 now.
Yeah.
Son with autism, had been nonverbal for years.
There you go, nonverbal. I like it.
And so, but anyway, she had really, really, really good results with the nutrition stuff. But the way she had gone into this little segment at the end where he had recommend, okay, well, avocados really good in the, for sources of fat from during the day, because he used to probably have cereal or a shake or something.
Yes.
And so, but she said, I took that. And avocado he tried and he fucking hated. And that's another thing that's interesting in their line of work is there's totally other considerations that you don't normally have, which is like some textures just simply won't work. Yeah. Just will not work. Texture
especially with autistic kids.
Yeah, it sometimes that just won't work. And that was the case. It was a total dead end for her. That thing. And so what she did is, I don't even remember what her change was, but she found something totally different that fit because she understood I need fat here and this is why.
Exactly. Right.
And then in the end, she said, in just turning that around alone, it had been magnificent. He could sleep well, his mood's better, anxiety is way down, the whole thing is great.
Anxiety down.
And then he even was able to say that he's feeling like himself already again.
Yeah.
And so that's, fantastic, but that comes from not being told what to eat. Because if Michael comes in and says, eat avocado in the morning,
that would
the
have
kid's
been
going to fucking hate it.
Yeah.
He's going to smash it on the table.
And he's going to eat his cereal.
Morning.
Yeah, exactly. But so
that to have taken the extra step, to take the slow route, to really help someone understand why, is the difference between it working and it not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is so why people complain that we are abstract and everything, because our point is not to tell you what to do, is to tell you how to do it.
Yeah.
And understand that people that tell you what to do are selling you something.
Yeah.
It's a bottom line, man. Or they're lazy, just don't want to put in the work.
Yeah.
It's like I'm seeing that with we'll have a podcast about coaches, but I'm starting to see maybe it's just humans. Maybe I'm just realizing something that was always there, but I know I'm not an optimist and whatever it is, but I'm starting to see a little bit of a darkness in the world of coaching where a lot of time it's knees out and it's barbell no matter what, just because they don't want to do the extra work of if it's not barbell, then what? Those are scary questions, by the way.
Yeah.
When you start to look at, you've trained with a barbell like all of us all your life, right? Machines or barbell at the Global Gym or whatever. And suddenly in your coaching life, you look at the barbell and if you go, what if you actually do more harm than good? I'm not saying it is the case. I'm just saying like this would be a very scary question. Just to be able to entertain that thought. And it's maybe Epictetus, don't quote me, I think, who said that Marcus Aurelius maybe. Well, anyway, one of the Romans, who said that the intelligence of a man is his capacity to entertain a thought without accepting it.
Yep.
That's a very important part. But imagine if you built a life as a trainer around barbell and you look at it and you go, are you creating more problem than you're solving? That is a scary thought. And it's not necessarily true. Or as usual, there's, it's not black and white. But it's a scary thought.
But you should be, but I think any person who actually gives a shit about what's going on, like if that's the realm, that's because usually that barrier is what's built up because you've built your livelihood around it and you've gone so far down that road you can't turn face often.
That's exactly.
But my thing is, if that all that does hinge on that and it is that important to you, you should be really wanting to be right. So I don't get it.
And it doesn't matter where you get the right from.
Yeah.
It might not be your right, but as long as you learn.
But I don't know that that's a coaching thing. I think we see it globally. I think we see it everywhere nowadays. Is you can't even bring up.
Yeah, people come back down.
You can't bring up the possibility of anything.
Yeah.
Without like I couldn't. You bring up anything. Let's say I don't even want to get into the whole thing, but about say lockdown policies and reintegration policies with the virus. If you say, well, we should maybe start to phase some of this stuff to get people back in. It just boom, there's a line. People won't even walk down that road with you and be like, okay, what fact? Because I believe these lines in that case, in every case, in gun control, the legal age to drink alcohol, all of those things, for us to assume that the lines that we've put in place for those are perfect is fucking stupid. So let's talk about what sits on the other side and we can find something more ideal.
But those are scary.
Because if I say, okay, maybe you should be able to be 18 in the US to drink alcohol. There's plenty of people have a problem with it. If I say it should be 23, some people have a huge problem with it. But it's like, well, let's just stop talking about the number and a status and let's start figuring out the human element.
And people will go, how are you going to do that? Yes, those are complex questions.
Yeah, because I can't just be, and a person has to probably reconcile how they feel about it as well, instead of just saying, nope, that's a line, it's a rule.
Well, and also the fact that they never actually thought about the problem.
This is one of my favorite exercises I would always tell, because I as an American, I like people being able to own guns to defend their homes. But to say that, let's say, I should be able to own a handgun, probably. Should be able to own a shotgun, probably. A rifle, probably. But at some point, should I be allowed to own a hand grenade for myself?
A bazooka.
Surface-to-air missiles. What if I have a farm? I mean, you know what? I don't know. Oh, fuck.
The government might be coming.
Yeah, but it's like, where is that?
Can have a tank.
But where is that line? But I can't talk about that line, because if I want to move that line to say, all right, maybe we shouldn't have hand grenades, they're like, you're taking away our guns, and I'm like, well, no,
just the hand grenades.
Just the hand
grenades. But even military,
I don't even know.
military grade guns. At some point, how many bullets per second do you need to shoot?
And so my question is always, I don't know the answer, but I can't talk about it.
Right. Which is
crazy.
It's like when the video we put about the Swedish expert, epidemiologist expert, he was the head of whatever, like health, health state agency in Sweden or whatever. No one is watching the video. No one is commenting. No one is even looking at it.
No.
This dude is up there. Like, and Sweden is having a response that is working, at least for their economy, a lot better. They're not especially getting more death than percentage-wise than anybody else. It's like, but again, we can't have that conversation. That's why we put the video on the StrongFit community, because a year from now, I'll post it again.
Yeah, I was half expecting, it was a 40-minute long video, I was half expecting within 5 minutes of posting it, a bunch of people arguing
pissed.
about it who hadn't watched it. So,
but you know what? What is even worse? At least Wim reposted it, and he had people criticizing, and he had a very good answer, and he answered them one by one. But us, no one even liked it. We have like 8 likes on it. No one even looked at it. That's even worse than people getting upset. They didn't even look at it. Yeah. I think they do it because they didn't watch it because they like what we do, and they're just letting us have that one.
Yeah.
I think that's what this is.
Well, I think though, in the case that's, if you're a barbell squat enthusiast and you think the barbell is the only way to go, it's just the thing you're going to turn to, and you don't want, if I'm going to come and I'm going to say, man, that's a lot for you to try to turn around on. I suppose, but I don't get it, because I think the solution for your clients, right? The person who's been the barbell guy is trying
By the
to
way,
help
that's the
people.
point. You might do fine with a barbell, maybe. I'm not even sure, but maybe. But the point is, are they?
Yeah.
Are your clients better served squatting a sandbag than squatting a barbell? Those are scary questions.
Yeah. And is it binary? Should it be both? Where does the balance fit? Does that ratio shift based on their imbalances, their strength?
Right, and as they get better, can they use more barbell? For sure.
And so why can't it be that? Instead of being like, oh, that's sandbag. You know what I mean? It's just, it's weird that it has to be that way.
And then because then they come at the barbell saying like, there was that stupid argument, and I heard it time and time again. Yeah, but it's my, then they get at me with Newton laws of movement, and force is, mass produced versus speed and stuff like that. And I'm like, really? So, okay, simple enough. Smith machine, I can put more weight than on a barbell. So therefore, squatting with a Smith machine is better than squatting with a squat. But no, because like free weights is better. I'm like, why? Why stabilization? I'm like, all right. So now you just introduced another constraint to the first one, where you just say what matters is moving more weight. Yeah. And now that I'm showing that there's a way to move more weight that you don't like, now you're coming my way, which is what matters is.
Yeah. But you're not willing to take one more step my way on
right,
the same
exactly.
grounds.
So you won't take a step past where you are either way.
Well, and I think that's a thing that lies at the root of a lot of things we do with StrongFit. It's actually in the Epstein episode, it's something we talked about a lot but didn't really touch on specifically, is we need better discussion, for Christ's sake. Like if what you say
on Instagram.
Yeah, if what you say is new, like even about I totally understand someone coming in and have no idea about the nervous system, digestion, and not getting it, and you saying eggs are protein, and they're like, well, what? They all said eggs is fat. What do you mean? Or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then like,
let me explain to you why I say that.
I can't have chicken and rice. I thought that was healthy, because that really is maybe all that they know. But at that point, if that person is willing to talk and understand,
I'll always take the time.
Then that's great. But to just come in and say, well, chicken and
bullshit
rice makes people jack, it's like, well, then we're done. I can't have a discussion.
People come and they, I remember on YouTube, the guy was like, it's been proven that splitting nutrients does not work. I'm like, proven
well,
by
I guess we'll shut it all down. I don't.
Yeah, first of all, and then on top of it, like, I read here and there. Proven by whom? By that dude who sold a diet back then. Like, and by the way, we put all the stuff relating to what I say on the nervous system is all on the StrongFit library. Like, digestion is in parasympathetic. Like, that one, just go on Wikipedia. Like, that's been known for 150 years. But I still think we have the drawing on the StrongFit library.
We should shore some of those up, actually, by the way, in the library. Now that I think about it, some of those basics.
Let's put the basics.
Shore them up.
Yeah, but I mean, you can find the pictures everywhere because that's been known for so long.
Yeah.
But no one is attacking those ideas ever. The only time I got attacked was 2 weeks ago when I put the preprint about the the Prevotella bacteria and being a carrier for the COVID-19 virus, and I say, okay, so do you think like absorption of carbs and starch could make it worse? I was like, yeah, that'd be my take on it. So instead of saying that would be my take on it, if that was right, I say, yeah, that is my take on it. My bad for not formulating that properly. That's what I meant, was like, is there a possibility? Yes, that's my take on it.
Yeah.
So what I meant by that was, if you had this, are you saying that? I was like, no, if this were true, then that would be my take on it. But because he said, is there a possibility? I said, that's my take on it.
Yeah.
That there is a possibility, not that necessarily Prevotella is the issue. And Prevotella has a shit ton of such species and stuff like that. So there is no causation there. What I was introducing is the idea of a correlation, of the possibility of a relationship between Prevotella and the COVID-19 virus, which would be very important because we know Prevotella is responsible for starch and sugar. So there could be a relationship. Do I know? No. Was that a study? No, it was a preprint because at this stage, the money is going toward other stuff than testing the gut biome and the COVID-19, and they probably won't do it. Yeah. But anyway, so I was using a preprint. That's why in the picture, it says preprint, and if you look at the bottom, it says preprints are not peer-reviewed. So I thought I was covering my ass on that one. But my idea was, and then I say that would be a crazy relationship in the text or whatever I said. But so obviously an assumption of mine. Yeah. That one, the dude came from the high moral ground, and from what I understand, it's his business model anyway, and tried to blast me on it in a very aggressive way. But I have never had anybody making an argument, a scientific argument as to why the StrongFit protocol is not right.
No.
Ever. No one has ever came to me and say, scientifically speaking, what you're talking about is not correct.
What I've seen is plenty of people come up and say, will you just prove to me that it's right? Show me all the documentation. That and it's
and we did.
Yeah.
But Rob Wolf was understanding what I was talking about and said that's an interesting point, and that's what I'm interested in anyway. Well, by the way, there is no truth when it comes to nutrition and everything. We still don't know how the human body works truly. Yeah. Like there is no truth out there.
And you made an interesting point on causation and correlation too.
Yes.
Where when we have this, people will come to us and point to a correlative thing as though it was the cause, and that I hate. But I also hate the idea that you cannot look at correlation for relationships.
If you don't have causation. We don't have causation.
Don't know.
Remember that book? The Why talking about?
Yes, yeah.
Science today is the science of correlation. Yeah. It is not the science of causation.
Causation is almost not a fact.
That asshole, like from the whatever it's called, that came to me with a high moral ground. It's on Instagram, but face to face, I would love, or in a podcast, to have a scientific conversation with him about the fact that you want to talk about causation because you're talking about peer review and stuff like that.
This is the thing. We make plenty of decisions that are not peer reviewed, like locking up the entire world.
Right.
Not a single one of those models is peer reviewed by fucking at all.
The paper from the UK thing was not peer reviewed.
Single organization puts it out, and that is what is the entire world's policy is built on. Nobody asks a fucking question about that. And the same people from those same fucking industries come up to you and say, oh, well, eggs are fucking fat. So, you know what I mean? Everything has to be drawn a line. And that's the thing that needs to go away.
No, but plus, yes, understand that most science is correlation.
Yeah.
Causation is actually extremely hard to prove. And with the human body, we're mostly swimming in correlation. Yeah. Like if you look at medical science, it's correlation. It's causation. Ooh.
Well, my thing is this: I would much rather help someone understand something than convince someone of something. Because I don't give a fuck to convince anyone of anything.
Yeah, I guess. But they come and they say convince me, knowing full well you'll never convince them.
Be convinced. Never. And that's a point where it's just, all right, cut that off. My energy goes somewhere else. Someone who wants to understand.
Yeah, like I'm starting because I opened the door on that guy on Instagram, but I think he proved once again that he was not there to have a conversation at all. Like no good comes out of it outside of me being upset. So I think I'll just cut it off every time, erase and block because.
Well, and I think though to have these even debates or discussions wherever you are, public, family, colleagues, fucking competition, whatever it is like, I think to go into those debates searching for understanding and common ground is like, it's like if people would just start with that, like help me understand this, not come in and say I think you're fucking wrong, because you're never gonna start, because every new piece of information technically is new because it is counter to your reality.
By definition,
just the way it is, and I'm not. And sometimes you could come up with telling people a concept like splitting protein and carbs very often, if people haven't thought a few steps into that at all, it's like you're walking up to them and telling them like, all right, the earth is flat and here's why.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa, and you're like, whoa, it's way too big of a gap. And they shut the whole thing down because it's just runs counter to their reality.
Yeah, cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
But at this stage, like, because I was thinking about that the other day, it's like, should I answer those things? I'm looking at Dr. Jordan Peterson. This is a life I cannot have.
Mm-hmm.
All respect, all props to him.
Yeah.
He's willing to take on certain entities that are doing everything in their life, whatever they can to if they could destroy him, they would. Like, they're trying so hard, right? And he can take it because he has the other side and stuff like that. But that fight like one side versus the other like that, like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
I could never live the amount of stress he must go through.
And so that bad dialogue, the bad debates, the come in drawing lines, that's a thing that we had talked about a little bit with, I thought it was with the Jordan Peterson thing.
Yeah, about his depression, like his anxiety pills, and people not explaining. Like, they say, he went to rehab, like he was a drug addict, because he got hooked on anti-anxiety pills.
And you mentioned this before. When they come to you like that, that's drone behavior.
Yeah, totally. That's a system.
It's like I'm looking at a fucking robot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want to offend anybody out here, but if you ever talk to, I don't care. Fuck off. Is if you ever talk to somebody and they're having a really good, nice conversation, and you could have a good evening, whatever, and then all of a sudden it's like, they'll just drop some line about, with the saving power of Jesus Christ, and it's just like, wait, hold, and I have to like rethink like the whole. Everything that we talked about, does that fit into there? It's just a jarring thing. It's like, or if someone comes attacking you on religious grounds, you're like, well, wait, what?
Yeah, because if they start to say the saving power of Jesus Christ, the conversation ended, because they won't be a communication past that, because I won't go their way, but they'll certainly never will never go mine. But in their mind, I'm going to hell. So right away. Yeah. It kind of puts a damper on the conversation.
Well, and I mean that by the drone thing too.
Yes,
in the like, oh, that's not you speaking. That's
memorization.
That's like your indoctrination is just talking to you through
memorization versus learning. And you realize that those people, the only weapon they have is memorization.
Yeah. And you see it a lot with the stuff that's coming out, where people challenge things on fucking medical grounds that are extremely unfounded studies and poor data and all those things. And when they come at you with that stuff, you look at it, you can just look at it all and you're like, oh, that's not you talking. That's the $200,000 you spent on your fucking PhD. And you hate your job, and you fucking hate everyone trying to challenge it doing something different.
Because what you got out of a PhD, which is the way the system is working right now, is memorization. You just learn to pass tests and to memorize what you were told for. Yeah. Again, I'm telling you, man, scientists are the new priesthood. Yeah. But it seems that humans need that. Like, we have the priest, now we have the scientist. Like, some people that have spent 9 years in a closed environment where they were being told to memorize the truth, even though, and without being able to discuss it. Yeah. And whoever questioned that truth should be excommunicated. Yep. Yeah. And I'm talking about most scientific school right now. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. So what you see most scientists to be now, not all, but a lot of them, maybe not most, but a lot of them, they are bureaucrats.
Yeah, they're experts at it too.
Yes, they're expert bureaucrats. They're technocrats. Mm-hmm. I guess that's the correct term. They're technocrats who are very good at repeating their stuff, you're dealing with bureaucrats when they're incapable of integrating anything else but that. Yeah. It's like that Swedish epidemiologist who came up with why lockdowns are bad, the video where we put. There was an answer by the British dude who posted that non-peer-reviewed paper about what he thought. And he started to go into emotional argumentation, like, he said, let all people die. And that Swedish dude never said that. Never said that. And then after that, he was like, but he could not integrate, for example, in him, the death count was the only measure. But I'm like, but crashing the world economy will cause death. And he said it, but that doesn't go into the paper. So, for example, it was crazy. There's a guy said, because he's a doctor oncologist who talked about that, saying like untreated cancer patients might outnumber the people who died from the COVID-19 because of the lack of treatment and everything. Did you put that into the study? And he said no.
Well, yeah, that was one of the interesting things with non-emergency procedures. It's not just elective procedures, it's non-emergency procedures. So if I had to get, fucking something lopped off or whatever, some, major but not urgent, it's going to wait. And that's one. The other thing is it's costing hospitals a fuckload of money, because that's how they make most of their money. They make most of their money off emergencies. Right. So that's it's very interesting.
But the UN just put out a paper saying that if the world economy keeps crashing, they are predicting 160 million people dying from starvation.
Yeah. Well, you're going to have this perfect wave. Conspiracy Tyler believes one thing only: everything is going to come to head, and we're going to have first the second wave.
The asteroid is coming?
Well, no, the asteroid, that's supposed to be today. So if that comes today...
It is dark. It's not as sunny as usual, I'm just saying. It seems to be a shadow.
But I do think in most cases, certainly, for the media's gearing up, there's going to be a lot of push for second wave fear now. First it was flatten the curve. Curve's flattened, now we're still being held hostage. Now it's the second wave that's going to come. And then it's going to coincide also with the food shortage supply stuff. All this stuff is being pegged to come to a head at some point. And we're just going to be sitting in the middle of that. And what the fuck that means, I don't know. But it sounds unpleasant.
It does not, yeah. Well, hopefully we get... people are... I see here, people are more in the streets and everything. Like the system outplayed its hand, I believe. Yeah. People went with it, but are waking up to the fact that, again, Sweden is a major sore point in the whole argumentation. It's not just Sweden, but there are other countries. Yeah. But Sweden is an issue because they are not, when you talk about death rate, it means nothing because you can't compare the number of tests. It's based on the number of tests. But and by the way, when people are going to say, well, they had less deaths in Finland, yeah, but it's in the video. Sweden has a lot of nursing homes. Mm-hmm. And they fucked up on that one, and even he said
their nursing homes are designed with higher populations instead of they're bigger.
And if I understand, Finland, the older people also stay at home and stuff like that. So they have huge nursing homes in Sweden, and half the death in Sweden occurred in nursing homes.
And that was one of the things that he even said.
They fucked up.
He's like, you know what? He said, if we wanted to make a change to make our society, in that case, our society more resilient to such things, we would need to lock down nursing homes sooner. And change the structure with which our nursing home system is designed in Sweden, which is where we would want smaller, some more isolated, instead of large facilities.
So
he admits that, but that's the thing is there's also people totally miss the actual physical human application. When we're trying to reduce transmission risk, there is a human and systematic element to this, cultural, from one country to the next. How people travel, they're saying that I'm hearing things, and of course it could be both sides of this, or just none. Is that California had adopted early lockdown procedures very early, and they're claiming, of course that's what they're claiming for why they have such better lower rates of infection than New York City and all that stuff. The problem is California lifestyle from a virus transmission standpoint is extremely fucking different than New York City.
There's
so
no
you
public
cannot
transportation.
You cannot even that is not even the same way of life from a virus transmission standpoint. You cannot. That is not apples to apples. That's not the same town to same town. It doesn't.
You know what killed me with the English dude when he was saying he wants the lockdown to keep going until they have a vaccine.
Of course he does.
No, but I'm like, right? See if it takes 9 months. This is insane. You can't. They're gonna say restaurants are gonna be closed until whatever. They were talking about next year and everything. I'm like, but every year. So we won't have restaurants and bars anymore. Anyway, okay. So we're going too far to COVID-19.
Here's what I want to do. I want to rent. If that is the case, they should just rent me out a restaurant then, and I can just crash there for a year. Let me lease it, live in it. Vacant space. They can use a little extra money.
We can open a gym. We can.
I don't need a bed.
When someone goes to bankruptcy, we get the
I do have one. There was one last question I want to get to before we wrap up. There was a question about pillow and sleeping on the floor. I don't know what you use. Pillow. You use a pillow. I use a pillow. What I have found is I've talked to lots of other people. This is why I wanted to get to this one. Is my pillow demands are much less. Right, so when I started, I would use just kind of a pile of pillows. I need something between my knees, whatever. And then gradually it's less and less. And now I use basically a small kind of firm couch pillow under my head is all I have now.
So
when I sit down.
if we talk soft versus hard, same idea as the floor. I use a very hard pillow. The only thing for me with a pillow, and it's important, is the size of it, because I'm very broad and I like to sleep half the time on my side. And if I sleep on my side with my shoulders being that broad, that means my head on a normal pillow inclined. So I wake up the next day, I'm like, fuck. So it's the size of the pillow, but it's very hard.
Yeah,
I would sleep on a block of wood. I would have no issue.
And one of the things that I had, I think it was Daniel Murakami had sent. He said that he used basically he had progressed the same way, bigger pillows, a little firmer, and now I think he just uses a rolled up towel.
Yeah,
which is funny because every time I'm messing around with my little couch pillow, all I think in my head was a rolled up towel would be the perfect.
No, you know what I've used is I use those foam rollers.
Yeah, that's kind of what it reminded me.
Right. So when I was in the gym, that's where back in Torrance, I had upstairs. Whenever I would take a nap, I would go on my jiu-jitsu stop, lay on the foam roller. On the side, I sleep so well. Can't sleep on my back with a foam roller because my head is like this. But on the side, so I had two pillows. I had one where like just a piece of wood for my back, but if I turn to the side, I had a foam roller. Yeah. So I put two foam rollers, so then I could. Foam roller for me to sleep on the side is a perfect height.
Yeah, I will tell you, sleeping on the floor as of right now, it's almost 2 months for me. No plans on going back to a bed.
Yeah.
None. I now one of my biggest logistic issues is figuring out how I can make from the furnished apartment we're hopefully getting keys to today. How I can make them take the bed out.
No, you tell them.
Yeah,
there was a bed right here.
Well, when I get the contract.
There was a bed right here.
Was it? Oh, okay, nice. Yeah,
you tell them.
So I'm hoping that I can get that out of it. But it's been really nice. It frees up my house.
Frees up space.
When I'm looking for houses, I don't need the idea of having a bedroom, especially here, where 90% of the space is bed.
Yeah, your bedroom just got so much bigger because all you got to do is fold the sheet in the morning, and then you got all the space.
Yep, Megan all she does is picks it up. Yeah, exactly. Rolls it up into the pillows, sits nice in the corner.
Right, and you have a huge bedroom.
Yeah.
No, but plus, like, by the way, I sleep on the floor. It is a bed. Like, it's as soft as a bed. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like, my skin doesn't tell the difference anymore. It's like,
the houseboat.
It's been 20 years.
We tried to rent the houseboat, you know.
It's been 30 years I've been sleeping on the floor.
So I tried to explain to the guy, I was like looking at the bed situation, and it was different than what was in the pictures and sorting it out. And I'm like, well, I'd rather just have that gone so I can sleep on the floor. Or if that's going to be there, it needs to be like, just I can put like a block of wood in there and then I can put my shit in there. And he's like, why? And I'm like, I don't know.
Because I sleep on the floor.
I don't even justify that from like a person. I just tell him, I'd be like, I'm really big and I train really heavy and I just rest better when I'm on the floor. It's better for my body. I just leave it at that. Because I can't even try to relate to some 60 kilo guy who's a realtor who doesn't lift. You know, it's just like, you'll never get it. So
he should still sleep on the floor. Yeah. You know that there was a doctor, someone sent me that, I think, I saw his comments, a doctor saying like that sleeping on the floor is bad for your spine or stuff like that. And I was like, so evolution fucked up again.
Yeah, we should have. That's why mattresses have evolved with us over the last.
Right, the last, we've been chewing for like 300,000 years. Yeah. So that's why mattress. Let's say half.
Yeah.
So half of our evolution as humans, for 150,000 years, we had mattress that led us to the promised land that is today with a very soft one.
Yep. And you
that
can
makes
see
complete sense.
They gradually evolved from the spring mattresses that our early Neanderthal bodies
right.
They were memory foam mattresses.
Yes, exactly. Because we knew then they used mostly like whey, but then they were sewing the stuff on it, like because metal springs were hard to find.
Yeah.
You could find somebody, like as a production.
You had to go to the
it was a bit
landfill
harder.
and recycle.
Although the aliens did help. So maybe there's that too. Maybe the aliens gave us the beds that the 150,000 years ago.
By the way, we have to finish on this though. The Pentagon released UFO footage yesterday.
We have to finish on this. Why is no one freaking out?
I don't even get it. They put some weird caveats when they described it. But so the Pentagon, this footage has been out for a while.
Has been leaked for a long time.
What they did was they actually released it formally, saying that these videos that has been kicking around the internet are real. They said it is not a part of any investigations that we have going on with any other country. It is not any technology that we or any other country on Earth appears to have or even been working on in their secret projects. And then they were just like, so...
No, but plus, by the way, I don't give a shit. They just said the video is real. That's all I need to know.
Yeah.
There's a stuff gyrating and going in the air and it's real.
Yeah. And moving
And
like...
it's military real estate saying that video was always real. And you can hear the guy saying, dude, this thing is gyrating.
Well, there's another thing, if you watch it too, is he actually mentions, he says there's an entire fleet of these. Because so that's what they could get their radar, their stuff to
But
lock
I don't
on.
even need to go that far.
No, I know.
There was a fucking thing right there on the video, and it appears to be real.
Yeah.
Of a UFO. That does not mean alien, but that means that no matter what, that shit is real.
Whatever that thing is flying.
It's real.
So
why is no one freaking out about this? Why is Twitter for if not that shit?
All I'm seeing here in the news, according to Apple News, U.S. going to be in for a bad fall and winter. Next coronavirus wave. Meat processing plants. Trump doesn't understand how bad the virus is. Tupac Shakur filed for unemployment in Kentucky, and the governor could hardly believe it. That's the news on the day.
How old was she when he did that?
Anyway,
I don't even know why I'm asking.
That is the news on the day the government admitted that whatever that craft was that's flying,
it was real.
Like real.
The video, 3.
Yep.
Not 1.
Yep.
3. 3 videos are real.
Yeah.
About a ship that does shit that seems to defy logics. Can we please bring those scientists back?
Yeah.
And fucking explain me that one.
Yeah.
Because now I really want to know. If we can make those, how come my car is not flying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever they're making, I want that.
Why's my bike only got 8 gears and 4 of them work?
How come it takes 16 hours to get to Australia? Because I'm pretty sure that fucker can go a lot faster. So I want to know what that is. If it's military,
hook us up. Let's go.
Because there's no jet fuel anywhere. There's no smoke. There's no nothing. No. Whatever the fuck they're doing, I want it.
It's so cool. So check it out.
I want that one.
And that is as vetted of a source because the video's been out there for a while. But that's like CNN, NBC, like all the major news had just dropped their blurb on it and walked away.
Why is no one?
It's the coronavirus effect. Nothing's interesting.
It's like, do you guys
give me another $1,200 check?
Right? No. I think it's more than that. Is if it's not scaring the shit out of you. So maybe if we saw like 20 of them and it looks like they're gonna attack
in today.
But like they're gonna attack, then maybe people will react.
True.
But do you realize that you all are incapable of reacting to anything that does not produce a sympathetic response? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Even when your intellect should be like, hey, that video was real.
You should be able to see a thing and then make your own first steps.
But they did not provoke an emotional response in you the way they phrased it. Mm-hmm. That's the media right there. Like, it's crazy to me that those videos, because they phrase it in a very calm voice, no one is freaking out.
It's worded in ways where there's lots of exceptions. They don't use the term UFO anymore. They use UAF or something like that. UAP, I don't remember, but UAP, unidentified aerial phenomenon is the new thing because UFO is too played out.
Yeah.
Because it's the PH.
Oh yeah, right. But if they are not creating a sympathetic response through their formulation, you cannot integrate information. Yeah. So they're not talking to your intelligence. They're talking to a very old system that reacts to emotion. So they are treating you like children. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Realize that you can only absorb information if it's give you through baby food. Yeah. Through a emotional response. This is how the media is training us. If I had a tinfoil, I would say that this is how they all take over because they're making us dumber by the second. This media, that's my Trotskyist anarchist line coming up. This media has to be torched to the ground.
Has to be.
I think it's time that YouTube and podcasts take over and we torch all this media system to the ground. They are corporate bought anyway. They've been the tool of not fascism, but of control.
Of military, military,
kind of
government, and
tool,
money, and everything.
Right.
You know?
So they've been tool not of an evil emperor, unfortunately, which will always be nice, but they've been the tool of the wrong side of the system, basically.
Poorly incentivized systems.
Right. Objective based and not constraint based.
I always feel like journalism is a thing that is I think journalism as it exists should be as sacred as art.
Do you know
what I'm saying? Like that for human beings, I think that,
I agree.
That like art is an important thing. It should be protected in that it can be what it can be. In journalism, the telling the truth.
There was a conversation between Eric Weinstein and Jordan Peterson where they were talking about, I forgot the name of it, but like 40% of people in hospital die from something they contracted in a hospital.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Euro, there's a name for it basically. By the way, most people that have the COVID-19 died in a hospital, so we're talking like 40 or 50% of them from a secondary infection they contracted in the hospital, not from the COVID-19.
Mm-hmm.
Like again, that people don't seem, that doesn't count in, that should not count in the tally, by the way. But anyway, it does. Yeah. Anyway, and so Eric Weinstein was making the point that journalism suffered from the same problem. Like there's a corruption of the truth that happens within the system where it's not. So not all journalists, but the system of journalism is...
Again, like everything, what floats to the top now is likes. Is the so every algorithm is going to stick with what works, so those funnels get bigger.
We need to torch that one to the ground.
So aliens are here apparently, and according to
it's getting darker by the second.
If the worst of the conspiracy theorists are right, the world is going to be end a week before they even see this.
So the world is ending the day I got my cat. That fucking sucks.
The day I get the keys to my apartment in Amsterdam.
Like people. So I'm getting a Maine Coon double XL. Yep. So it's at least 20 pounds.
Yep.
Like I've seen the mom. It's a gorgeous cat. You'll see pictures.
It's basically a bobcat.
It's 3 months old and it's already that big. Anyway, people have that T-shirt like your girlfriend, my girlfriend.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have a T-shirt that says my cat, your dog.
I have a feeling that your cat will be far more ferocious than Fletch.
Most likely. But they get like, that lady yesterday had some cats. Like, if Hades had a cat, one of them would have been his.
Really?
Oh, he was the most badass cat I've ever seen. He was black. If I was mine, I would call him Ultra Instinct.
Yeah.
Because he was black and some kind of a gray metallic fur, but like gray black metallic. So it was like black and like a shade of gray, metallic gray. And he had like those long ears with the stuff. And he had like fucking badass look that the Maine Coon have because they had those eyes and everything.
You look like some sort of weird Terminator elf.
Oh my God. And like super fluffy. And I'm looking at it going like, that is the most badass cat. The big ass paws and everything. It's like a burglar would go like, I'll choose the next house.
For sure.
Like it was the most badass cat I've ever seen. Yeah. I love cats and that one I was like, fuck.
Well,
like
having done
Hades
heating and air conditioning, I've been in a lot of homes with people's pets, alone with people's pets. And I have never been more scared of it. There's some cats you go into and they will just attack you the entire time you were in the home.
Yeah.
And I've never had a dog that did that to me. So.
And by the way, like...
the balls on a fucking animal this big to come at me unprovoked.
You don't. I'll show you a video of a guy in Russia who has like a glove and he's fucking with a cat. And the cat is biting and the guy... He keeps making that sound and he's starting to, and it goes higher. I'm like, dude, stop messing.
It's not going to go good.
It's not going to go well. Russian cats. I was like, I will not do that. And he keeps going and he thinks it's funny. And then at some point, he starts to climb too hard. So he throws the stuff out. And the cat comes, come on his leg, claws out and start to fuck him up. And the guy is running. He runs outside. The cat starts to look at him. And eventually, 10 seconds in the video, finds an opening, jumps through the window out and chases the guy down the street.
No shit.
Yes, I have to show you a video. Find it on Google. It's the funniest thing ever. Because the guy, the cat fucks him up. Oh, it's so good. I love cats. It's so good.
We've got...
I'll put the link of the video because it's too good not to watch.
That's got us wrapped up for today. Yes. So anyway, the...
Maine
Coon. We had a lot of longer discussion towards the end there, but mainly what we want to do is kind of cover some of the basics to make some of the StrongFit stuff.
Yep.
The introductory stuff. One thing I would like people to do, though, if you are kind of new to the stuff, or if you've been around a while, if you're clicking through strongfitlibrary.com and you find something where you're like, hey, this, like, I wish I'd have found this when I first got in. Shoot me an email, tyler@strongfit.com, because I can put some things in some fundamentals courses. I can move. I want to make sure that the most...
Actually, fundamental course is a good idea.
Yeah, or at least in the fundamentals section there, so I can have that populated with the best of the best. So if there's any of our stuff that you think, like, man, this is the stuff people should be getting to right away, or that really, really opened your eyes to it, let me know.
And and if we think we talk too much about the virus, it's because we believe there is... Like this system we are dangerous times, and not because of the virus.
No, it's only about systems run amok, and that happens with nutrition, science, health, government, all those things, and we just encourage people to think for themselves and find out.
What this is also is we haven't had a war in 75 years.
Yeah.
And so we forgot what it's like to get scared. But you telling me that if that shit had happened in 1952 after World War II in the US, they would have been like, give me a break, it's a fucking flu.
Yeah, for sure.
We like leaders.
And the truth is, go back, say, like my dad's generation, my father, all my uncles, all the men I grew up with, all my friends' dads growing up, not just some of these men, my grandfather, every one of these men were the types who, if there was a tornado, we'd have tornado warnings all the time. We'd have to go get locked in the basement. They would go stand outside and just see if God was bluffing. Every time.
Not the best idea.
Every time. Not the best idea, but what I'm saying is there was an entire society of that. And now there's a lot of people who are just going to be like, oh, you told me? Okay, I'll go down.
Yeah, but what bothers me the most is the lack of leadership at the top.
Yeah.
That's what really scares me the most is imagine if, like they always say like the people should have a government that matches them, basically. Imagine if we actually had a government that matches people. That's what it looks like to me.
Yeah.
Because that means you have a government, the second you say boo, that goes running because that's most people.
Yeah.
And so is that where we're going?
Yeah.
Like I find that...
Yeah, I can't have a government that's worried of whether or not when a virus is spreading through the earth, it's worried about my policy could be perceived as racist.
Right.
I can't figure that into whether or not it's effective.
When 160 million people will starve to death because of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
To save 50,000 here, we're going to kill 100 million. Why is that acceptable?
Yeah.
Like, this is what scares me, is that is the lack of leadership at the top. And people saying like, guys, if we crush the global economy, people will die. Maybe less, maybe more people, 10,000 more people die in England. Is that worth 100 million on the other side? Yeah. Like, and I'm not saying yes or no. I'm saying how come we are not talking about it? And that's the job of leaders. They're supposed to make us. That was the job of journalists.
Yeah, and the truth is that the choice is not to open everything up tomorrow and let everybody get exposed and die. It's like, no, let's come up with a fucking plan.
But we know that obese people and older people are at more. So let's protect them first, and then let's see what other group is like stuff like that. I mean, do we need to protect the healthcare system? Yes, but they are building. So let's build more hospitals. I mean, like, yes, the healthcare people are working way too hard. I agree. But then also we should look at the system and why were we never ready for any type of emergency?
I just want to be let out of timeout so I can play with my toys.
That too. I won't lie.
I'm grounded.
That too. Yeah.
There's some of that,
There's some of that too. That's true.
But you can find everything at strongfit.com, strongfitequipment.com, or .eu for sandbags, apparel, and all that good stuff. We have strongfitlibrary.com.
Yep. Important one.
Also, you're going to find on our link stuff, should also be everywhere on the website under online classroom for now, is you're going to find all our courses. The FIT template, functional integration training template, Julien's one-on-one coaching, all of our online products are there. We have... What else we got out there? You're on Instagram at StrongFit1. I'm on Instagram at Tyler F. and Stone. Manta Fitness in Australia. Support the podcast at podcast.strongfit.com. And we will see you in a couple days.